I think we're live.
We are live. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Very good,
Good, so
Dana.
good to see you.
Good to see you
And I'm
too.
excited to see some beautiful gems that you're going to show us.
Hopefully, yes.
Yeah, so just for everybody here, why don't you just give a quick introduction of who you are and what you do?
Of course. Hello, everyone. My name is Jay Moncada. I am the founder of Perpetuum Jewels. We are a New York City-based wholesaler of post-consumer recycled diamonds and gemstones. We are the only U.S. company with a sustained certification for two of their standards for sustainability, one being a responsible source to the trade, and the other one related to us is 100% post-consumer recycled. For those of you who are already engaged in purchasing recycled gold, for example, for places from Hoover and Strong, the same certifying body that oversees for our gems. So that party is SCS certified. We'll be hearing about them at some point in the conference, I believe at the second day in the afternoon. So you'll get better. I am excited to be here again. Always a delight to work within the effort of what the Responsible Jewelry Transformative is doing, and Susan Wheeler brings that continues to expand. And I'm happy to participate in providing the know-how of my business and my product. And then, Dana, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. Bronfman, and I'm a New York City-based jewelry designer. I've had the pleasure of working with Jay since early in my career, and I've learned so much from all of this conference. And so, if you're here, you're in the right place. I've learned so much from the conference, and it's just an incredible group of people. So, if you're joining us here and you haven't joined us, too, and it's just a great learning opportunity. So excited to learn more about antique stones too. Why and how do you think are the benefits of working with antique stones?
So the idea of having conversations around or recycling stones is that you can capture a little bit of what already has been attributed as an environmental cost. So these diamonds and stones typically to 150 years of age based on their characteristics. They have already been mined and processed many years ago. So in theory, the carbon footprint is impact. So what they bring to this sustainability conversation is the idea that you can, alongside other precious materials like gold and platinum, continually repurpose these gems over and over. And they, as we know, they outlive their owners, and it's a beautiful, sustainable aspect about the idea of precious materials: diamonds, emeralds, rubies, sapphires, gems, gold, precious metals in general. So we are dedicated to bring to market post-consumer recycled only, and we customary tradition within the manufacturing industry. And we make an emphasis on post-consumer because we want to make sure that it had been already worn and loved and used and worn and abused. Being antique jewelry, from antique jewelry, I should say. So a lot of old European cuts, a lot of old mine cuts, a lot of historical that are not the norm today, based on what's considered to be the ideal cuts. They bring with them a lot of historical context, a lot of the Romans of the time and an era. They are important to me from the messaging standpoint, but they're also important to my clients, the designers, makers of jewelry, because they bring in, again, the historical context, the Romans, and also it could be married with, what it's, it's a marriage of contemporary design with old style faceting and old time thinking in a way.
Absolutely.
So I've had the pleasure of working with you with some of that, and
Yeah.
briefly discuss with you that Dana's designs are, in my view, my opinion, so fresh and unique and so avant-garde, and she makes the combination of that style, that contemporary design style, effortless to be combined with our old stones. And we'll share some of those pieces with the audience so that they can see. So you have hands-on direct experience with those.
I totally agree with you. It's so interesting, the history of these stones, and it's just they're all so unique and different. And you just don't see these antique cuts. You don't see these old cuts on the market. And it's just so interesting to play with them. When I design, colored stone pieces, I'm typically starting with the stone, and then that stone kind of ends up inspiring the design that it's going to be. So I love the faceting patterns of, yes, that's an old mine cushion cut. And this picture really doesn't do it justice because it's so sparkly and amazing. When you see it in person and you see the movement in it, because just that faceting is so incredible. And I really wanted to kind of mirror that faceting with the texture that I have that kind of reflects the light. And so that's one of the reasons I really love taking something antique and putting it in a modern setting, because you just get such more unique pieces that way. And I personally think what is so special about diamonds is that, and natural diamonds, that they're unique and rare. And it's even cooler when they have a history and a story behind them, and it kind of adds an extra layer of romance on top of just the environmentally friendly benefits of it. So yeah, thanks for showing that.
Absolutely. And each one, character and characteristics, we have to remind ourselves that prior to the notion of ideal cuts or the idea of perfect light return in diamonds, cutters limited machinery. We're talking about handling one of the hardest materials, certainly today, and the one most hard material then. So the feat was quite unique, was pretty challenging. And so what they were working with was the entire rough piece and trying to make the best out of it. So in many ways relates to what some of our colleagues here presenting today, and their cutters, they're looking at the material and see how to make it work for them, as opposed to predetermined set or standards of faceting to be most efficient and most notion of a perfect cut diamond. So every single stone has their own character. It's got their own characteristics. I've shared with some of you in the audience and with Dana herself that there are times when the cutter deliberately leaves things that are traditionally today a no-no, right? Kind of like what do you call it's not what you do. So an example of that. This is, for example, a Jubilee cut. It's quite a unique cut. The history behind this was, I'm getting a mix of names here, but I believe that's the time. It was called there was a big diamond that was gifted to her, and the conceptual faceting of the time was used to create the Jubilee cuts later on. So this is one of those, very rare to find. These are post-consumer, these are antique. And I want you to know that, take a look at here at the center. I'm using to work as, I believe, kind of like a kaleidoscope effect of sorts. So this is to show that using the material and leaving their own signature on these pieces as they work with them. So just wanted to highlight that. Here's a little bit of a.
It's so cool. I love those with the higher table.
Yes, high table, deep pavilion, the bottom portion of the diamond is called a pavilion. And the facet is pretty unique. This does not follow any of faceting at all. It's not keeping in mind with just light return or scintillation, but it's keeping in mind with giving you a light show that's unique to the stone. Look
That's
at
amazing.
this.
It almost looks like if a rose cut and a, typical round diamond cut had a baby.
No, you're absolutely right. That's right. The rose cuts have it's like a concentric row of triangular facets. So this has that. That's a good comparison. So yeah, antique diamonds on its own, specifically on the diamond side, because there was a lot of there was a lot of interesting things that happened 100 years ago, Georgian all the way to Deco times, where as faceting and equipment and infrastructure improved and enhanced the work with diamonds. There are notion of early attempts at cutting. For example, the rose cuts that we know that today the traditional rose cut that's done in India and even in New York. This particular stone is an antique rose cut, and you see that it has the concentric rows of facets. Type of rock, they're called macles because they're not octahedrons as we normally see them. These were more flat. So rose cuts were ideal for this. And so you notice the bottom of it has no pavilion. And as you turn it around, and here the desired effect is the light bouncing off of the surface, creating a bit of a scintillation effect, but a brilliant effect, not scintillation. So I'll let it turn so you can see.
I'm getting like a wabi-sabi vibe from this. Yeah.
Right. So this is very early on, and this is in most places, as far as we have seen documented. Rose cuts are all cut in places like Antwerp and in New York, but originally they started in India, and you see that in a lot of early Mughal royalty jewelry that have extensive coverage of diamonds. So this would lend itself to that. I wanted to give another example here of this, by the way, are all inventory in stock. So you're welcome to inquire about this, further information.
Yeah.
Hybrid of a French cut and a table cut. So I want to show you, I want to start from the bottom first here. If you notice this triangular area here, this is mostly part of the original octahedral shape of the rough. And so it was customary to leave it basically just polished at the surface without adding much faceting. And in this document, you start seeing smart faceting on the top. This is an early, super early stone that has a bit of a hybrid of a French cut, which has this scissor cuts faceting on top. And then you see the huge open culet here. And then, of course, the very simplified single faceting at the bottom. So the effect is quite unique. And again, this is an attempt of making it work at the time.
So cool. It's beautiful.
Old faceting technique. Later on, here's the original stone that was in the.
Love it.
This is the ring that was created with that beautiful diamond. And here is the diamond.
Yes, I love that we can see it move because it really is so spectacular. I almost didn't know what to do with
Yeah.
the stone for a while because it was just so sparkly and incredible that I was like, no piece I make will do it justice. I almost want to just keep it for
The
myself,
product
but
was
I figured something out.
it was quite a special stone. A lot of you have to first start from the idea that the original piece of rock wasn't square; it was elongated like this. So they were able to use up a lot of the material. At this point in time, I'm talking about late 1700, early 1800s. There was already the idea of brilliant faceting, and the idea that you had with the idea of a table, with the idea of a girdle, with the idea of a culet, which is what we know today to be composition of the 52 facets of a brilliant cut. Today's world has variety. Brilliant, you have the marquee brilliant, you have the oval brilliant, cushion, etc., etc. And then there are hybrids of other or different evolved versions of the same. So here's that original stone, and it just that the faceting of the time, it's just much larger facets, chunkier facets. And the reason behind that is because the lining conditions, lining conditions are at home, candlelit, chandeliers, gas lights on the street. So that demanded for larger facets so that these could play out really well.
So cool.
Round brilliants need to perform well under our day-to-day, which is overhead fluorescent lights and halogen lights and whatnot. So still today, and which again connects to this message of how sustainable these materials are. So so this is a great example too. Along the lines of considered a Peruzzi cut, bringing back the idea that there was a development of the brilliant cut and the 52 facets of the diamond. This is an early evidence of that. It's called the Peruzzi. Great name. It's more of a considerations to documented work by Vincenzo Peruzzi, a Venetian cutter in the 1700s, who comes about this specific faceting pattern. He's considered one of the first or the father of modern round brilliant faceting. So notice the bottom, how simplistic it is. It's just as opposed to brilliant faceting. So really cool stuff. Let's see. Here's our old cushion. Old cushions are incredibly difficult to find these days. It's a race for a company like us who wants to rescue and maintain the value of the historical cuts. Recut into a radiant or something that's more in line with modern taste for modern jewelry. But we love this. We love finding these and rescuing them before they go. Something I wanted to point out here that was also an interesting fact, technical factual of the time, is that you notice the large size of the culet, which is the facet bottom, tends to repeat itself around each facet of the diamond, and that creates what's called a cosibe effect. You'll see that as part of the light play. It's like at the back of the stone, a little bit of an extra play of light there, which is very interesting.
So interesting.
Are you able to see this 360?
I can see
clarity?
it. Yeah, it looks amazing.
All right. Excellent. Cool.
Nice feature.
And then we do a quick trip to later at the point in which, oh my goodness, I'm confusing the names, but it was in the US where the steamed powered brooder was first invented, and we were able to create a round outline for diamonds for the first time. So it gave birth to the round stone, and in this case, the Old European that we see from the beginning hundreds all the way up until today, consistently with the 52 facets that we know of Vincenzo Peruzzi brought about, but with a round outline. Here we'll see still, right? We have an open culet. We have a high crown, deep pavilion, non-faceted girdles, by the way. Girdles were not faceted. Girdles are the waistline of diamonds. They were not particularly something that the cutters would do, but they will leave it brooded. And I should say brooding is the practice of the diamond until one of them shapes the other. So that's how the round shapes were accomplished.
So cool. So interesting.
Yeah. 68 J color VS2. And I'm not sure if you're able to pick it up on the screen, but when you look at the stone face up, it feels very white, much whiter than its actual body. We're able to give you enough contrast from those chunky facets, give you enough of the black, of the whites, of the midtones, so that you're not thinking about body color, you're thinking about those flashes. So that was their way of masking body color face up. I've seen incredible specimens where it's an M color, basically on the yellow tint side of things, and face up they just perform.
I would never guess that that's an M color. That looks so much higher color than that. That's incredible.
This one's a J, but it faces up like an H or a G color easily from every angle. You see that prismatic work here, and it just looks white. You're not thinking about the body color. You're thinking about the flashes and the contrast. It's just beautiful.
So cool.
And then, just to keep it in contrast, we do source, Perpetuum Jewels also sources modern round brilliants, as long as we want to ensure that they're being in the consumer market for some time. So we buy those, and just to give you a contrast of what it looks like, I want to play the Old European and see the difference. This is a modern round brilliant with the famous hearts and arrows arrangement in the faceting.
So cool.
And first thing you'll see is the faceting coverage. Every angle of the stone is faceted. You notice there's no open culet anymore on the modern. That was eliminated over time of the last second half.
Very cool.
And European, it's a more subdued brilliance. Both equally beautiful, but if you ask me, I'm still romanced by faceting technique. So
we have an important question from the audience, and that is, how can people contact you to see, and how can people see more stones? Is more available on your website, and how can people? What's the best? See more.
Yes, I'll make myself available here throughout conference tomorrow and Saturday on our booth setups. You're welcome to reach out to me via the website. I see some people that are attending already signed up for trade login. We have robust information on each stone, including what's most important, which is the provenance information. So you have to reach out to me on my email. I'm going to type it in here on the chat window for everybody. Right. Okay.
In addition to these diamonds, did you hear me? I'm not sure if you just heard me. I was asking about colored stones. I know you also have some fantastic post-consumer recycled colored stones that you guys source. And that's something that you started doing a little bit later, but is something that you've had some really amazing stones. I think that oval that will belong to somebody else soon. Not that one, but that one's incredible.
Yeah, this one had been found in a very big pendant. This is of probably Ceylon or Sri Lanka origin.
Mm-hmm.
We gave it a complete refaceting with the help of a good friend, Jean-Noel Sony from Top Notch Faceting. He's here in the US. He's an incredible artist, lapidary artist, as you can see. As well from the post-consumer market. And they end up sometimes, as in the case here, end up being repolished into something more usable, more unique. Or we have just sapphires. Depends where we find them. There isn't really, a predicated type of gem that we go after. Just as long as they are post-consumer recycled and they have some point of information for provenance, then the market.
Mm-hmm.
So we do some of those. And I'm glad you brought that up. I want to share with the audience what you have made with one of them just recently.
That's one of the stones, and that's just such an incredible stone, and it inspired this design. And again, that is just not something that I'm ever going to find again. So it just makes the pieces completely one of a kind and original. And it's really an amazing stone. I love the color and I love the shape of it. It's very deep and I always love dimension in my design. So I love that it's higher and that when you see the profile photo, it's a little bit high.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, I didn't get it here. Yes, it's an interesting heavy stone, and you created just the right platform for that.
So Jay has a lot of incredible stones, and I love how it's always just like you never know what you're going to get. It's always like something new and exciting because it just post-consumer market. So it's always really exciting and really cool. You can make some really special pieces with. And he does have pieces of the bigger ones because they're very exciting.
Yep.
And in the last couple of minutes, I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about, because I know you're really passionate about this, because you're not directly involved with mining, you don't have as much direct contact with mining communities and what is actually happening in the places where these stones come from. So how do you go through your business?
Yeah, it's incredibly important, and it's going to become even more important moving down the road. Everything that we source is in the US, post-consumer recycled jewelry in the US. And what's most valuable for me to bring to the trade is the product, but in itself, the conversations around repurposing, recycling of precious metals to be part of those conversations. But the big challenge here is that I'm completely removed from source communities. And priority list more environmental mindfulness. What does a product like this have for those communities? I mean, this material, it comes to me because they have completed a cycle of consumption, and they will continue to do that. So over the years, we research and find opportunities for both our diamonds and our gemstones and the proceeds and the profits of those to contribute back to source communities or anything that's related within our trade. So what we found is that in collaboration with designers or organizations that have boots on the ground, we are able to I would encourage everyone to research on. We work in donating proceeds every year to Partners in Health, who is a healthcare organization that provides training and education in the most needed areas around the world. The reason we chose to work with Pure for Partners in Health is because they have work right at the heart of the least benefited artisanal mining, diamond mining communities in Sierra Leone, specifically in the of Kono in Koidu. So they have specific work there at birthing centers, helping train and keep mothers and that for us represents the right place, the right hyper-focused place for diamonds to do good, for profits, for revenue from proceeds from to do good. And so we do that every year. And I'll remind the audience that this is the particular area from which such unrest and civil problems arose for and the consumer to those communities that are mostly affected in a very unequal, very imbalanced profit-sharing infrastructure that is the diamond trading. Separate from that, which is a toxic and pollution cleanup organization that helps, again, areas in the world that require or are in bad need of pollution solutions. And alongside with Dana and many designers over the years, we donate material so that jewels are created to fundraise. I fell in love with great work in Colombia. That's my home country, and they have been, incredible in sort of getting part of this conversation to work with their solutions. Our sustainability include, cleanup efforts or remediation efforts in places where are, so farly removed from us. So they've been able to give us that on conversations. So that's some of the things that we do, which is important, and it's something that anyone can do. It's not just dropping money in a bucket, as I'd like to see. This is actual direct impact and benefit to communities that could, in practice, be affected by our trade for the last 100 years or so.
Absolutely.
So,
cool.
I want to share with the audience the piece that you produced for the last benefit, Dana. All right, this is
there it is. And thank you for generously donating the stones. I know it really helps us designers, to be able to donate these pieces, and that helps raise funds, for the organization's really important work. So thank you for doing that. Thank you.
Yeah, this was great. And this was I think it was my 5th year collaborating. This was also your 5th year, Dana?
I think it was the 5th year.
Yeah. I mean, I look forward to each year.
Me too.
It's a really good place to put our efforts to.
Absolutely. And too, I'll put my email in the chat too, but definitely everyone should get in touch with Jay, because he has invisible stones, and he's also a really cool guy who has a lot of. So thank you so much. It's always great to chat with you and see some beautiful stones. And I'm looking forward to the rest of the conference and hearing the rest of the conversations.
Thank you. Everybody has more questions, I welcome you at our booth.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Dana.
Thank you, Jay.